think, all right, so how many people live in Brazil? There's a shitload of them, right? So if we just open up a Brazilian market, because there's a lot of players too. And in 2015, I was the head coach of the Australian national team, and we played in the World Championships against Brazil, and they had talent, man, like they had talent. And so if every team has 2 Brazilians on a team, right? Yeah. You can open up the Game Pass market in Brazil. That's something I would think of. And now Brazil is Mexico, same thing. All right.
Mexico, the same. That's what I just want to say is Mexicans are great football players.
Shit. Yeah.
Yeah, so today we are starting something new because we will make a combination podcast for the Football Hautnah and Coach JL podcast. My name is Johannes, I'm the moderator. With me is Martin Hanselmann, and also here is our guest from our Football Hautnah podcast. It would be John Leijton. Welcome here to the show. Yeah,
thanks.
So, So, John, you are head coach also. You have been for the Dresden Monarchs, and now you are back in Australia, and you are head coach for the Croydon Rangers. I hope it was correctly.
Pretty good.
And I think your listeners already know Martin from your other episode, which you uploaded in April. So I think they already know Martin a little bit, and I'm just football enthusiast. I'm a fan. I've never played football, but with the American football hype in Germany, and also as I know Martin really long, I always had a connection to American football, and this is how we started our project here. So just for your listeners, a short introduction. So how we will go in now. So which kind of topics? I think, John, you want to talk about like the Cologne Crocodile thing with Martin. Should we start it directly with this, or let's maybe start Australia? How big is American football in Australia? I know there's also like the Australian root football, which is, I don't know how to describe it, maybe more like rugby and So how big is American football in Australia?
Yeah, well, thanks, Johannes. Football is not too big in Australia, right? So now, just to inform everybody or anybody who listens, right? Australia is about the size of the US, right? And the US has about, say, 330 million people living there. We have about 22 million. Okay, so 22 million, 330 million, the same size. So that's one. And then 2 cities, Sydney and Melbourne, both have about 4.5, maybe 5 million people. So almost half of the population lives in 2 cities, right? So that's one. And the leagues that we have here, they're basically city leagues. So there's a league in Sydney, there's a league in Melbourne, there's a league in Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth. So all the major cities have basically one league. And then sort of Adelaide is not so big, so maybe 1 million people live in Adelaide. So, and they have now like 4 clubs there. In Melbourne, I think we're about 8, something like that. So Sydney has about the same, 8 clubs. Brisbane has about 8 clubs. And depending on which year, there's probably about maybe 3,000 to 4,000 people involved in the game, completely from juniors to seniors.
Okay. And how many people are interested, like in American football? Is there a hype as well there, or is it still like no? What is it? It's not baseball in Australia. It's what is the name?
Aussie rules, like AFL, like you said. Yep.
Yeah.
No, is there a hype? I don't know if you remember a couple of years back when there was a Australian rugby player. He played for the 49ers.
Yeah,
and
I remember
that was big because like Aussie rules is really the national sport, and then rugby league is a close second, I would say, or a second. And so this was a pretty high profile player in rugby league. and he wanted to try football, right? So there was really a hype about the game. The hype is, a lot of times, you've seen this in college or in the NFL, there's a handful of Aussie punters, right? Because the AFL game, they always kick, it's very similar technique. It's not the same, but there's a similar technique to it. So there are a handful of punters in NFL and a few handful in college. So that is something that people do follow. There is football on TV, free to air, and there's ESPN has, I'd say, 4 or 5 games a week in the NFL, and maybe 6, 7, 8, for college. So there is an appetite for watching the game.
Okay.
It's unfortunately it's playing wise, it's not a huge sport.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for this. Yeah.
You clear that up. Yeah.
Good. And you have also like Netherlands rules and Australian rules, or how is it?
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I actually, it's a funny story. I tell this a few times. I am the only Australian in my family. So that means, I have Dutch parents who came to Australia. Then they had me, and then I went back to Australia, to the Netherlands to grow up there. And over the years, I've been back and forth. And since 2007, since Roger Goodell, unplugged the NFL Europe, we went and moved back to Australia full time, or at least call it our home here. And then, every now and then I go back to Europe to coach football as well.
Okay. And now you're in Australia. Yeah. And I think this is how you connected also with Martin when you've been in the Netherlands and you started to coach American football. And in your last episode, you discussed that you met at the NFL Europe. Do you remember it now, John, or was it just Martin's
Probably just my impression. I don't know. I think it was during the NFL Europe, John.
Yeah. Look, we've met along the way a couple times, I think. Not maybe real, face to face and interacting a whole lot, but be around the same circles and that kind of stuff. And then I think, look, if I think back to, I think I've been to some clinics where you've been, where we both attended some clinics, that kind of stuff.
I remember the Berlin clinic. I think we were both speakers. There was a clinic in Berlin held by the NFL Europe, and I think we both were speaker there.
Could that be actually in the UK?
In the UK also. This was before. You're right. The UK clinic was before the Berlin clinic. Yeah. And the UK clinic, this could be with Rick Ayub. Brought me over. Rick, Coach Ayub hosted this, and he brought me over. It could be that it was in the UK. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Look, all these memories are here somewhere, but sometimes just trying to unlock it all, eh?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and then over the course, obviously, when you're in Cologne, we coach against each other in GFL. We knew about each other. Let's say that's for sure.
That's probably that's the point. Yes, we knew about each other.
How is your story to be a head coach in American football?
How did I get to coaching?
Yeah.
Well, that's.
I hope we have enough time for all these stories.
Maybe do it short. Yeah.
I can do it very short. Right. So.
All right.
My body was wrecked from playing football, and I was like, I just had enough. I would like to play, but my body had enough, and I decided, what, I'm going to play guitar in a rock band. Okay, so I bought an electric guitar, an amplifier. I took lessons, and then some bright spark on our team. So like. Why don't you start coaching? Like you were a team captain, you do a lot of that, coaching anyway. And that was it. Like I literally, guys, I had about, I think, 4 or 5 lessons with my guitar. I put the guitar on the attic, and I just went, head first into coaching and never looked back.
Okay.
That's short enough, right?
That's short enough. Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, it's a great story.
It's like I tell you what, the guitar made it back to Australia as well. That's how long I kept that thing.
Okay. You still playing the guitar sometimes?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't actually. I haven't learned how to do it. It's like I kept the thing. Yeah. No.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. And before we go to the next topic, for our listeners, this is also recorded as a video podcast. So I will put the link so you can see us also in YouTube if you want to, but you can also listen to us at Spotify and all other platforms as well. So now maybe we go to the GFL topic. So you're coaching the Dresden Monarchs like for 2, 3, 4 years. How long was it?
I was in Dresden for 4 years. Yes,
4 years. Yeah. As a head coach.
Coach. Yeah. And then I had 1 year off, and then I went to Düsseldorf in 2019.
True. Yeah.
For the Düsseldorf Pandas.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, how was your experience there in Dresden? I think it's a really good club, good fans, good atmosphere there overall.
Yeah. Now there is nothing that is negative that I could say about the Dresden Monarchs organization or fans or anything around it. Yep. That's how good. I think it's an example of what GFL teams should be. I feel
that's true. Yes, that's true.
Okay, so you had a good time there overall over the 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What is special in Dresden?
Special. Yeah. All right. So what we say special is. So what is really good is that the leadership of the organization is very stable. There are people who are very passionate and very hardworking, and they do the right things at the right time, and they also are patient about building the organization over time, so there can be some consistency, going forward. Not we're trying to win tomorrow. And putting all the eggs in one basket, so to speak, but more, all right, what is it that we need to build this organization so that this can be here for a long time?
Okay, there's consistency within the franchise or within the club.
Yeah. And look, the chairman of the Vorstand, has been there a long time. The GM has been there forever. The coaching staff, the local coaching staff, have been there forever, and they're all working together, right? There is not a look. I just want to do it my way, and I'm going to try. I'm going to bring my saw, and I'm going to try just saw some of your legs out from under you. So, yeah, like I said, it's Jörg Dressler and Robert Kruse and Thomas, who've been there forever and basically started the whole thing as we know it right now. And they just do a fantastic job. It's like I said, and then what the other thing is, I think too, which is helpful, is that Dresden is a pretty sizable city, right? But it's not one of these major Berlin, Düsseldorf, Cologne cities. So what you have there is that Dresden is a big number in town, right? So you have the basketball, you have the ice hockey, but Dresden Monarchs is just as big as the ice hockey and the basketball is, more or less, right? So I think that's helpful too. And what I think what the Dresdner people are very proud of too is that that downtown area just fantastic.
It's really beautiful.
It's awesome. Is this This was my first year in Dresden. It was like when we do the team picture, we need to have it on a great location.
It's great. Yeah.
Can you guys see it? Maybe a little bit closer.
Yeah. So it's in the old town. What is in the background exactly? I've been in Dresden, but it's like 2 years ago,
well,
3 years ago.
The Frauenkirche is here. You know, that's. I mean, I think there was like 250 million euros was financed to rebuild it. Now I'm not sure. This is the Opera building, I believe. Opera. I'm not sure what it's called, but this is just And then right there you see the boats behind it, right? So that's the what's the river? Elbe, yeah. So it was not a picture, in the stadium, that kind of stuff. And I thought, this was a really nice touch there.
Yeah. Good memories.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you already mentioned it, because this was also thoughts from Martin, the consistency at the Cologne Crocodiles to start there as a head coach. And this was a topic where you want to talk about with Martin, like, how is the experience for you, Martin, getting fired before it all started? And so maybe you can share your thoughts, feelings for all the young coaches out there.
Yeah. Well, Cologne Crocodiles was something. That's really an interesting story. I got a phone call from the board members there, and they asked me, "Hey, we would like to meet with you. We're looking for a coach." And I got some people who brought up my name over there, and so I went to Cologne. We had a great meeting. I had my what do you say? Do you say lawyer, advisor? You remember Stefan Breuer?
Stefan, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Stefan is doing all that stuff for me, all this contract stuff. And so we were there both. And at the end of the meeting, we both said, "Hey, that's a great setup. That's really, people are really honest." He said they seem honest. They are thankful, and they want to build something up there. And then so we agreed with everything, and I started work and had nobody from the coaching staff, called everybody from the old coaching staff, and nobody wants to work with me. I got like, ooh, that's tough. But I got some old connections there, and I hired very good coaches. Peter Heyer, you remember? He's a great guy and a very good football coach, offensive lineman. Played in the NFL Europe, and I think he also had some time in the NFL.
Absolutely, yeah.
He's a great guy. And then Oliver Tank, he played for me in the national team originally, I think from Darmstadt, and he lives in Cologne there. And he also he became a very good person, a very good coach, can motivate people and knows football a lot. Then Luigi was there. I called him. So I got a good group of coaches, and I thought, all right, we can start the thing, and it's going, and we start practices, and I came out, and all the board members were here. Jan Stecker was there. He was one of the board members, and all the other ones, and we had 5 people there, 5 players there. I got like, okay, something's going wrong and something's going up. And so I started, and I called everybody. I called every player, every single player, and it starts that I got a feeling, oh, there's something wrong. Something's really, something is in this team is getting wrong. And I didn't want to get involved in all that stuff, what happened before. They had a fight between coaches, staff, and board. And I got like, hey, that's not my business. It's just not my business. My business is coaching football players. And I know from my experience and from my long time of coaching that it's always tough with the board members. And I try to understand coaches. I try to understand board members. You're always, as a head coach, you're always between these two. And so I tried that and talked with the coaches, and they said, hey, we need to stay there, and we say, hey, we're here. You guys can come, and we coach you guys. And we had a couple of guys very loyal to the team. They showed up, and But after a while, we got in discussions with the board members, and they said, well, they don't understand what's going on, and they were very busy calling players and calling these people, the team manager, the board members. They all really tried very hard, and honestly, I don't know what really happened, but no players showed up. And after a couple of weeks, I was in Cologne. I already was there. I got my apartment set. I got everything set. And Cologne has great facilities. They have great practice fields, turf fields, grass fields. You can use it whenever you want. And I got meeting rooms and all that stuff. And I got like, okay, that's a good setup. And I would like to work and start. And it didn't work. It just didn't work out. And players didn't show up. And then after a while, they just unplugged it. They just got in, hey, we cannot have that. We cannot talk with our sponsors. We are not able to start the league. And we had coaches meetings, how many players we need to start. I was in contact with all the American players. They were under contract already. There were some strange things in contracts, and I talked with the players, and I got the impression that, that's not a real contract. That's a little bit shaky with all that. But hey, they all said no, they don't want to play for the franchise. They don't want to play for this club and for this team. So I hired new American players. John, that's not the deal. The deal are the homegrown players. That's what you need. You find enough American players or whatever players from Australia, and I was ready to recruit some guys from Australia. I talked with some guys from there, but we said, hey, just wait. We need to see. We need to wait. And the thing where the homegrown players didn't show up. They just didn't. I don't know whether they didn't trust me, whether they didn't trust the board, whether they want to be loyal with their old coaching staff. I have no idea. Then the Centurions were happy about that. They could recruit. They recruited a lot of players. The Panthers organization recruited a lot of players. So it was not a very nice situation. It was not funny. But at the end, the Cologne Crocodiles organization had to say, we cannot play in the GFL. It's impossible. We do not have enough players. And we do not have the money to pay just the new players. And they didn't have a second team that you can start with the second team and try to coach up these guys. No, they were all gone. They were all gone. I think at the end, we had about 16 to 20 homegrown players. And the board was, they were willing to put a lot of...
And what are your thoughts now afterwards for this whole situation?
Yeah, I still can't get it. I know that players are loyal to their coaches, and you have a connection to your players. Usually, it's just you recruit the players who fit to your character, and yes, you have a connection. And players are disappointed that maybe the coach get fired or is not here anymore. But on the other side, what I couldn't get is, man, I just want to play ball as a player. I want to play football, and I'm loyal to my team and to the organization who helped me and supported me in playing football. I thought in this case that the coaching staff was a little bit overrated, because at the end of the day, it's not the coaches who building up a program. Coaches building up a team. But the Cologne Crocodiles are a very traditional organization, and I still don't get it. I have no idea what happened in Cologne this year and why the players are not came back. Because it's, like I said, it's a very good program, very good facilities, and people in the board, for me, my impression, they really were honest people. That's all what I can say. They treated me well, and they supported me wherever they could. And that's the story about Cologne, I think, John.
Yeah. While you were talking, I was thinking, because we were scheduling another podcast to talk about this subject, right? So coaches getting hired and coaches getting fired. That's just part of the gig, right? And but just while you were talking, I just realized, like, this whole situation is there's not of your making at all, because you didn't even do anything yet, in a way, right?
Yeah.
There was nothing there. But look, in 2019, in the middle of the season, I was let go with the Panthers, right? So there was, we didn't win. They said, look, no, we're gonna let you go. So sure, all good. But that's kind of the how does that feel? Like that was my topic to talk to you about, like, when how do coaches respond to getting fired? How does that work, or how do you feel when that happens? That's
and I don't know how you think about it, but it is at the first time you always go like, yeah, it's normal, it's part of the job, it's part of the deal. You can get fired. You know it when you sign a contract that you can get fired. Till my Stuttgart time, I get fired never because I was not successful. I always had successful seasons. I remember I got fired as a national coach because I felt, and we were very good. We played good. We won the World Bowl, first European Championship. In the second European Championship I coached, we were second. So we were in the finals, just were second. Got the bronze medal in the World Championships. So wasn't too bad, I think. But it was always that in that case, I felt the president wasn't very happy with me, and he was always scared that somebody gets more power, and you have power as a head coach over the team, but you need that. It is like it is, but it was never my intention to get more power than the president. All what I want to do was coaching football and have a good relationship with the players and build up the sport and build up the American football in Germany. That's always my intention. And so even in Düsseldorf, I got fired after, I think it was 15 years. After 15 years, we had the most successful season. After their last German Bowl, we played the semifinals in the GFL. And then I got fired, and I was really very frustrated. I was disappointed because I got like, man, that's at the beginning when they tell it you go, okay, it's part of the game, it's part of the job. But then if you sit back, you go like, wow, that's what happened there, and it's disappointment and all that. Then when you get fired because you were not successful. And this is funny. The first thing what I did was think about what I did wrong. Just thought about, hey, what was your mistakes, your faults? And after a while, you figure out, well, you haven't done so much wrong. You do things wrong. Nobody's perfect. You make mistakes here and there. But overall, and then you figure out, but the circumstances were like this. People had other expectations. Then they were not ready in the European League of Football. People were not ready for building up a program like Dresden did over 10 or 20 years. They want to have success right away. So that's different. And that's not me. That's not me as a coach. I'm more developing things. I like to develop things. And so, well, yeah, it's disappointing. And the Cologne situation is disappointing because I want to coach so bad. It's still, I told you, it's before the podcast, before we started the podcast, that now the 2023 is the first time since 1982 that I'm not involved with a football team. So I'm in a bad mood every weekend. I'm in bad mood every weekend. I got like, man, what's going on?
Is there like football for seniors that you can just get your frustration out of you?
No, John, I'm just too old for that. I coach youth teams. I help the Bavarian Warriors, this all-star team in Bavaria. I help there the wide receivers, and I'm coaching, but it's not coaching a team. It's different, and it's fun. I like coaching when I'm on the gridiron. I really that's how I really be happy. That's when I'm happy. It's just if I'm on the field and I can work with people, that what makes me happy. And now with these two situations, Stuttgart and Cologne, and I thought maybe retiring. I'm old enough to retire, but then I don't know whether you know it, but somebody. Oh, what is the English word for Einbruch?
Like as in.
Somebody,
robbery, like
yes, it's robbery, and somebody we had a robbery here at my office, and somebody stole all my championship rings.
No shit,
they're all gone. I can show it. It's right in front of me on my desk.
Empty.
I have all these things and pictures and medals and trophies, but my rings are stolen. Somebody stole my rings, and I got like, man. Maybe it's a sign you need another one.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just somebody told you, hey, get back on the field and do something. And during the time, I thought, hey, there's some energy in me, and I would like to go back on the field, and I would like to coach. That's all my feelings. That's all my feelings. When you get fired, you go like you go through. Okay, it's just a job. It's you be right. Then you get disappointed. You start analyzing what you did wrong, what was wrong, why does it came to the situation you don't want it, and after a while, you bounce off and you go like, hey, you shake off everything. Go like, nah, hey. I want to go. I want to go back on the gridiron. I want to go back on the field. There's something in me, and I think these are the feelings of me in all these situations.
So for me, like after 2019, I was angry, man. I was very angry. And look, it goes a bit much to go into detail of why. But look, as coaches, we evaluate every day, right? You know, after practice, you evaluate what did we do, like every day. The film, what did you do? Your practice schedule, your season, all these things, right? So, afterwards too, like you get fired, like all right, so. Obviously, the clear for in that situation is very clear. If you don't win a game, you know that's not good. No. But so many people there, they say like, well, you know, how much worse can it get? I said, oh, you watch.
Well, when I got fired in Stuttgart, it became worse.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's of course. Look,
nobody thought that. But
no, If the evaluation is only about winning and you haven't won yet, it can get worse than not winning, right? But there is a lot of things that can get worse besides the not winning. So that is look, there is a lot of people that make decisions and they're not football people, right? So then it's like me making a decision in that something has to do with math. We're talking about math, but technology, right? We talked about this earlier. I'm not good with technology. And if I have to make a decision based on the technology, I don't know what the right decision is, right?
Yes.
But I have an idea about football. I have an idea about what the right decisions are with football. But if you make decisions and you don't really have the wherewithal and the knowledge for football, and you still make decisions, then you can think that it can get worse than not winning, but it can.
It can.
But in terms of so you're what advice could you give then? Sort of like as a young coach getting fired, what's the advice?
Well, the the main thing is don't step away from football. Don't stay with the game you love. You have the passion for. This adds so many positive moments to your life. This is unbelievable. This is coaching. This is really unbelievable. And nobody, I know we are not really well paid here in Europe, but you cannot pay all these moments you share with players, you share with all that. We both talk also about great victories you have, and just this moment when the referee blows the whistle and you know you have won a title, and you look in the eyes of these players, how much they worked, how hard they worked, how often you yelled at them, how often you encouraged them to stay on their track. Just this moment, is it worth to do it all? And these are moments you will never forget in your life. So that's the main thing is don't think about quitting. Don't think about being retired or whatever. Just analyze what happened. What I try to do is really making a list of points, what I want to make sure I have with my next contract. And not about money or whatever, just about facilities, support, team management, sideline things. That's what I do, and this is how I choose then the next team. Do they have this? Do they have this? I want to become better. I want to become a better coach, and I need support on sideline. I need support on all these little things. And I'm flying pretty much every year to the United States to stay on football track, to learn modern football. I don't want to be old school football coach. See, when I mentioned that old school coach, when I got fired once, I remember that players always got like, coach, this is old school. You're old school. That's different. And I started, and this was my mistake. I started thinking, okay, maybe you should open up your mind more and listen to the players. John, this was totally wrong. You listen to the players, yes, but you make the decision. And there's no short way for success. That's hard working. That's running, and it's not, coach, all this running makes us more not competitive. We get more injuries and blah blah blah. No, it's not true. It's just you're lazy. You just go through it, go over it, and do it. So I learned that I don't listen too much to the players anymore. I listen to them in all their advices, and people change. Young players are way different to the first generation of players I coached. You have to listen to them, but you make the decision. It's not their decision. It's the coach's decision. And these are things I would advise to young coaches: stay on your track. Don't listen too much. Learn, but don't learn from the wrong people. Learn from the right people, and just develop your coaching every day.
I think the one thing that stands out for me is, like, just don't take it personal.
That's for sure.
Like, just and the other thing too is there was always reasons why you are letting go. They let you go, right? But it happens to everybody, right? It happens to everybody. And I always like if in the NFL, guys get hired and get fired, and it doesn't mean anything. But so let's say, don't take it personal, and don't let it stop your growth as a coach and your development. And that's two good things, I would say.
Yeah. A very good friend and head coach, Bob Nielsen, he said to me, if you stay long enough in football, it happens.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it.
Yep. Case closed. Moving on.
Case closed.
Okay, so John, no advice to add from your side, or you have
look, well, I said, like, don't take it personal, and just keep on developing and growing as a coach, and look, you're always, no matter if you get fired or not, like, you always just want to go and talk to other guys about your development. How did they see what happened? Other people's objective version of the situation is good to understand, right? But look, in my particular situation, it was like I talked to not so long ago, talked to Kirk Heidelberg about this too, right? And he said, look, looking at Düsseldorf, right? How many coaches have there been the last 20 years? Okay. I don't know. I don't know the number, but it's a very long number, right? So now, and if the right person is not in place, that can happen, of course. Yeah. But if they're always the wrong person all of a sudden, right? Then there's other issues too, right? So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I would like to add, everybody needs to know, and this goes up to the German soccer Bundesliga or the NFL or college. Consistency is a part of success. Sometimes even not the best consistency, but consistency. And people can believe in what happens and they know what happens. That's a big part of success.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. So I think for this topic, I think it's fine now, and maybe we can go on, because another topic which would be interesting from my side, maybe you both can have a discussion about the actual situation in Germany, in Europe, with the ELF and the GFL, because like John, in your podcast, you already mentioned you had Kirk Heidelberg. He was head coach for the Cologne Centurions, and also offensive coordinator for the Hamburg Sea Devils. Then you had from Rhein Fire, René Engel, who is a co-owner, and also you had in your podcast Sean Sheldon and Jim Tomsula. So I think you have a connection to the ELF. I think you haven't coached there yet, or
no.
Yeah, but what is like from looking outside as a coach? So what is your view being outside of the ELF actually? So what do you think about ELF, GFL, and the situation in Europe overall?
Yeah, look, I've said it a few times. And like, I am pro, I call it ELF, right? Pro ELF. It's easy for me. ELF. But pro doesn't mean that things can't improve, because I do think there's a few things that are just problematic. All the German players that play in the ELF obviously are GFL players, right? So that part is where they come from, the GFL 2 or lower leagues, right? So that is happening. So that is kind of a problem for the GFL teams. Martin, you were in Stuttgart, the Scorpions. That wasn't pretty. No. Elmshorn Pirates wasn't pretty, and there's lots of other teams that are just really, decimated by guys leaving. And that's part of life. I understand that, but I do think that there's some kind of regulations would be good. Having said that, it gives more opportunity for more players and more coaches to play on a higher level, and I think that is a good thing. But the cooperation that's missing, and at least in Germany, there's no cooperation, right, on a league level. I think that should be something that they look into. There are teams working together somewhat, Panther and Rhein Fire. There is at least a friendly situation there. In Austria, obviously the Vikings and the Raiders, they have teams in both domestic and the ELF league. So I'm all in favor of growing and developing the game, but if it's robbing Peter to pay Paul kind of stuff, right? If we're building the elf, but we're really we're putting a dagger in the GFL, it's not a great situation.
What do you think, Martin?
Pretty much the same thoughts, and I was involved when the ELF started, and it was a great idea, I think, and it is still a great idea to do this. After 2 seasons coaching there, honestly, I think the biggest problem the ELF is just the money, and it is. I remember when I coached a couple of guys, and they came and they were able to practice every day. So they're not working; they were professional players, and they got paid well. Not really good, but well. They just made a tremendous step in their playing and the quality of playing. And as long as we have situations that, and I faced the situation that we came back from Warklow in the morning at 6, and one of my defensive line players said, "Hey, coach, great that we made it on time, because in 1 hour at 7 o'clock I start my shift at Porsche." There is no rehab for this guy. He cannot rehab on a very good level of football. And after watching the games, honestly, I have to say, and it's my impression, it's just my opinion and it's my impression, the quality isn't high enough for the European League of Football, because we have too many teams in Europe. We have too many ELF teams, and we have too many National League teams. And I remember I had a discussion with Coach Kösling from the Galaxy about offensive linemen. Just the ELF teams in Germany need more than 90 offensive linemen. We do not have them in Germany. And now you have 32 GFL 1 and GFL 2 teams, and you have, I think, 7 or 8 ELF teams in Germany. The quality of the offensive line, and it's for all positions, it's just an example, because it's always tough to get offensive line players. We do not have the amount of good offensive line players in Europe to feed all these teams. And it's on all positions. And I still talk with coaches from the ELF, and some of them tell me, "Hey, we play guys we wouldn't start in the past, because we do not have other guys." And if it starts not being an elite league, it will be a mix, and that's what I think is it shouldn't be a mix of GFL and ELF, and the quality is not as high as it should be. So that's my biggest problem at the moment. And as long as the ELF cannot pay their homegrown players in the same way that the other players, or just giving them a good compensation, it will become a tough thing. And you know it, John. It's so expensive. It's just so expensive running a football program.
Oh yeah. So great point, right, Joe? Is there like 7 or 8? Like, so if you go with, you have 9 or 10 offensive linemen, that's a lot of guys. Now, that's where I'm saying some of the rules, right? What I don't quite understand is, you have in the NFL Europe, we had the same thing, right? The general managers said, we need homegrown players so we can sell to our fan base. Look, Rhein Fire, this guy lives in Düsseldorf, and he is our starting national player, and we can sell that. I as much as I understand that, right? And I told you I listened to your last podcast on my way back from practice the other day, and this is how many German players play in the Bundesliga, Martin?
Well, in the GFL, you think, or
no? Okay, so
soccer Bundesliga.
Soccer Bundesliga, yeah.
Wow, I don't know, but not enough.
Well, there you go, right?
Yeah,
so
not enough.
in a sport, right? How many soccer players in Germany?
Yeah,
right.
Just take FC Bayern München as an example. I don't think there are too many kids out of their youth programs.
Yeah,
I'm sure there are just 2 or 3, and all the other guys are bought from other countries, and and that makes it expensive.
No, look, sometimes you have thoughts about stuff and it's not actually quite 100% correct, but it's so Bayern München and every Bundesliga team has a youth program where they try to develop the next guy for their team. And most of them go play somewhere else and they sell those guys and they try to finance a little bit, with all that stuff. And then it's worth maybe having a guy come through every now and then, right?
Yeah.
But if we look at the Elf League, is we need German talent, right? But they also need to be local because there's different rules. If you can't house them if they're in local play, all that kind of stuff. In Germany, there's a lot more players than any other country in Europe, right?
But it's not enough.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but if you, it's like in Spain now. Spain will have 2 teams next year, but in Spain they need, say, 20 quality offensive linemen for 2 teams.
Yeah,
that basically, I would think, and I don't know much about Spanish football, but I think that's all the offensive linemen in the country that are any good need to play then on 2 teams. So that is also different. You have Poland. Poland is a great example. One team in one country, they can take all the guys, right, in the whole country that can play for them that are any good. That is different. That is different than having 7, 8 teams in a country.
But you have to be able to pay them, because if the guy from Spain is down in the south and he's a great offensive lineman, how can you transfer him to Madrid without paying him a lot?
So you find him a job.
And that's my next point is, all these job things. It's if you want to be a professional league, and that's what the ELF needs to become to be an elite league, is they need to pay their players and they don't have to work full time. Because otherwise, if you work 8 hours a day or 7 hours a day or whatever, or just 4 days, your mental abilities, your physical abilities are not good enough to compete with the college players coming over, getting money, doing nothing else than playing football.
Sure.
And that's for me a big point to get all these players together. Then the German the German government, then it's complicated with all these social security stuff. And because they are not clubs, they are not clubs, they're companies. And I think that's another big step for all the teams to get the right formula or whatever, to have it in the right way, not paying too much taxes and social security and all these kind of things.
Well, I do think I look at it a little bit like, back in the day, 100 years ago, whatever, in the US, when they're starting pro football, or I look at here, the AFL, Aussie Rules Football League. Not so long ago, these guys weren't pro football players. They had their jobs, and then they would come after their job. They would come practice and play games. And look, the early phase of a pro league obviously isn't great, right? You want to build towards something. But I do think some of more regulations could help, the growth of the game. And because look, the NFL, one thing they do better than anybody else is they want to have parity. so that the Lions can beat the Chiefs, right? They want everybody to be able to beat everybody. And so it's not, so revenue
competitive
share.
balance is another big point people should really think about in the league. They should think of, because they need competitive balance, because otherwise, if the Hungarian team plays Rhein Fire, nobody wants to see that. And you need to make it even. It has to be balanced in any way.
So same thing, like, you hear, so last year it was the expansion. It was the Hungarian team. I had Boton, sub B. He's from Hungary, played for us, right? And a great player, but I don't think Hungarian football is such that they can compete with Rhein Fire. No matter how many, if they have all the players on the team from the country, right? So
that's big point too. That's a big point too.
What are your thoughts, John, about Leipzig Kings this season, because they stopped playing during the season because of financial problems? What are your thoughts in this direction?
I just don't know. If we say, Martin, we say like the elf teams are a business, then you'd think, well, how much is this season going to cost me? I have to have that covered, otherwise I can't start a season. All right. If revenue from fans, jerseys, game day, all that kind of comes in, and you think that's going to be 10 times what it's worth, when it's actually the real number is, that's a problem. I have a hard time figuring out what went wrong there, Johannes. I don't really have any inside knowledge of what went wrong there.
I think it's really money issues. And you mentioned that before, some of these guys, some of these GMs are not football people. So they don't know how much it costs to run a football team on that level. See, if you travel, if you travel, you have to stay in hotels and all that. That's a tremendous amount of money what you have to spend there. And then you haven't paid a player for that. Then you have the bus companies, you got your staff, you have to pay. And I think some of the guys just don't have a good calculation. And in my experience so far, and I wasn't involved in that too much, but I think the league should really have a good financial advice for a newcomer. If, for example, if Madrid goes on and they go like, hey, we are interested, then somebody should explain them on a sheet, hey, these are the costs you face. In the first year, you probably need 3 million to start it, because you have to make marketing. And for example, the Ravens did a great job in getting spectators to the stadium. They were lucky with the NFL game. This made a hype. But what I heard and what I saw is they did a great job on promoting the games in Munich and the area of Munich. But I'm sure this was a big amount of money to do that, because it's always, you need to make advertisement. Yeah, well, advertisement costs a lot of money. It's not about the printing something. It's just spread it out. And you can do it social media, yes, but it's also a little bit money. Just the private stuff is for free. But if you want to get a bigger circle of people, then you have to pay for it. Even social media, yes, it's cheaper, but it's money. Then remember how many great little videos they had. Somebody has to make it, a videograph or whatever, however these guys are, these new businesses are. They don't make it for free. And that's over. They don't make it for free. And then the cost of promotions are probably a high percentage of the total budget you have. And I think if you if you bring in a new team, you should sit down with them and explain this. I hope they do it. I don't know, but I hope they do it, because after year 3, they have at least a feeling of how much money. If they talk with the owners, if they have an owner meeting, they should really be honest with their expansions and with the money thing, and then they know, okay, an average ELF team needs an amount of blah blah blah. I don't know, and I hope they do this, and I hope Madrid got this, because that's maybe the case in Leipzig, that people didn't figure out how much money it is, how expensive all that is.
Remember the World League of American Football, Martin?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So obviously there was the predecessor to the NFL Europe, but they came out, and Paul Tagliabue wanted a global pro league, right?
Yeah.
And then he figured out, all right, all this flying across the Atlantic, so much money. And every year after, really, in the NFL Europe, it was always about cutting costs, right?
Yeah.
How did we end up? At the end, we ended up with 5 teams in Germany and 1 team in the Netherlands, right?
Yeah.
To cut travel costs.
Yes, the costs are, it's like I said before, to running a football team and a professional football team is so expensive. Even college, when I talk with my friend Bob Nielsen and in South Dakota, and we talk about costs, John, they have 4 full-time people just looking for booster clubs and sponsors and guys who bring in money for the sports programs, not only for football but just for the sport programs. And it's so hard, and even him or even he says, hey, if I talk with the athletic director, it's always discussions about budget and lower the costs. Try to lower the costs. Because the income isn't sure. You don't get the budget is a difference. You can say this is our budget, but you need the money to fill in the budget. You can always talk about, hey, the president come and say, hey, head coach, give me your budget. I make him a budget, but he has to make the income. He has to see how you fill all these spots with dollars or euros. That's it.
So you start in Madrid. How is Madrid going to go and play? I don't know. Look, Spain is a pretty big country. From Madrid to Barcelona is a big bus ride. I can see that. Now, where else are they going to go? Italy. Are they going to bus to Italy?
No, they fly to Italy.
So now we're not talking busing. We're talking exponential cost, right? Yes. Now we're going to fly, and I'm telling you, that's one thing that's not going to fly. Like, that's too expensive. So one of the things that I, when the league was talking about expansion, I was always thinking, well, there has to be on the continent where it's not too far to travel, stay away from flying. But and now did I see this thing about the UK, a team in the UK?
Yeah, they think about that.
Yeah.
I don't know why they really want to have all these old NFL Europe things. That's honestly a thing I haven't understood so far. I know Patrick comes from the NFL Europe and all these team. It's maybe a big thing, but honestly, why not having a new league with new teams? Maybe Rhein Fire Galaxy. That's a big point. That's big, but I remember discussions that in the NFL Europe, that even the Dragons in Barcelona, they never had so many spectators. They never really filled the stadium.
Berlin Thunder.
I think
Centurions.
who was the coach there? Was it
Jack Bignell?
Jack Bignell. Yeah, Jack Bignell. And one of my running backs in Germany, he played for me in the GFL then. He played for them, and he got like, well, we don't have enough spectators. And why you started then a team in Spain? Just because this Barcelona Dragons old traditional thing, did it help? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. So brand recognition is a thing, right? If you want to, if it's completely new, now you can say Barcelona Dragons, and there will be people in Barcelona. Oh, Barcelona Dragons are back. That. But if you just scratch the surface just a little bit, you're like, hold on, no, that's not the NFL Europe. But I don't know. Yeah.
But it's tough. Well, it's a business decision, and I'm just a football coach. I don't want to get too much involved in all this.
Just give us a team.
Stuff. Yeah, give us a team. It's not. These are decisions I don't know enough about it. But I thought, or I think, well, you need to check the market before you start it. And honestly, I think the expansion is too fast, just too fast. We do not have the players all over Europe, the quality players to fill up so many leagues, so many good leagues.
Yeah, there is there's a few people, I guess, like Australians, Brazilians, further away, talent that can come play. I think they need, to me, right? So I'm not a business guy, but I'm trying to think as a business person. And I think, all right, so how many people live in Brazil? There's a shitload of them, right? So if we just open up a Brazilian market, because there's a lot of players too. And in 2015, I was the head coach of the Australian national team, and we played in the World Championships against Brazil. And they had talent, and they had talent. And so if every team has 2 Brazilians on a team, right? Yeah. You can open up the Game Pass market in Brazil. That's something I would think of. And now Brazil is Mexico, same thing. All right.
Mexico is same. That's what I just want to say is Mexicans are great football players.
Shit. Yeah.
But they count as Americans because they have high school football programs, I think, in Mexico.
Yeah, but no, okay. So rules and regulations.
Yeah, right? That's right. You can make team,
every team can have 2 Mexicans on the team, right? Yeah. 2 Brazilians, 2 Mexicans, right? So now guess what? All right, let's because I tell you this, there are a lot of people think that Mexicans aren't very big people.
No,
there are some huge Mexicans,
big people.
So every team could have 1 Mexican offensive lineman. I'm telling you,
yes.
there are enough of them, and they're good enough, right? So then you have solved that one problem, opening up Game Pass in Mexico and in Brazil, 2 Mexicans, 2 Brazilians. There you go.
The only thing is the time difference. I think Brazil would be okay with 4 hours before.
But they can stream it. They can look at the day after or whatever. Yeah. My biggest problem would be like the NFL Europe, John, is the cost. If you have Mexican players, you cannot get them for cheap money, for less money, like a German guy here who's working and whatever. You have to bring in a Mexican guy. That's a lot of money. He costs just more. He's a pro player.
Sure. Yeah, well, sure, but again, look, I say this. I don't know how many times a week. You're like, if we're gonna make if we're gonna make an omelet, we got to crack some eggs, right?
Yes.
So if we want to create a pro league, then we have to take some steps.
Yes.
And nobody's, and like you said before, nobody's waiting for crappy football to happen. They want guys that can that they can look up and players go like, I want to play there. Fans enjoying this game, like this is next level football, and you got to find ways to do it.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
You could argue, look, so for example, you can have, what is the number of Americans you can have on a team? 4? 4. Yeah. Right. Yeah. You can say you can have 5 Americans on a team, and one of them has to be an offensive lineman.
Yeah. For example. Yeah.
Like you can these rules, you can make the rules.
Especially because you're not in a federation. You can make your own rules. It's a business. They can make their own rules, and this would be a great rule. Just having, I would say 6 Americans, offensive line and defensive line.
Yeah,
because these guys bring so much. They bring so much impact about weightlifting. We are so far behind about lifting and running for linemen. They all think, hey, I'm big, and no, you have to be athletic. Look at these offensive linemen right now on college or NFL level. There is no big belly. You don't see a guy with a big belly like in the past. These guys can move. They're fast. They're athletic. And I think this would bring a big impact for especially this group of guys when you have good offensive and defensive linemen who show them how they practiced in the United States at college level.
Yeah. Now,
John,
Martin, go on. Sorry. Go on, John.
John, you had in your podcast already co-owner René Engel from Rhein Fire. After your talk with him, what makes Rhein Fire so special? What is financially also maybe different? What are your thoughts after your interview with him?
Yeah, René Engel is an awesome dude. That's one, right?
And a former player.
He's a former player, linebacker for Düsseldorf Panther and a national team. And look, so when I was in Düsseldorf and was coaching there, that's where I actually met him for the first time, right? And we had some talks about football, and he's talking about coverage, and he knows his shit, man. Like, he knows football, right? So that's great. So then on top of that, he's very smart. So not just as a smart football player, but he's a very intelligent man, and he has a passion for the game. So now he's a Steuerberater, right, Martin? So he can figure out how to do this cheap too. But
I called him when we started in Stuttgart. I called him and asked him a couple of questions. He played for me. He's a former player for me. And like you said, he's a great guy, a great person, very smart. And I don't know whether you guys know it, but his father is one of the people who started the German hockey league.
Ice hockey.
The ice hockey league, yeah.
Yeah,
he was
like
a former ice hockey president with the Penguins. What was the name? Close to Düsseldorf. Krefeld Penguins. Krefeld Penguins, I think. And he was the president there, and they started the German hockey league. So his background is a little bit about sports, and he knows it, and he knows how things work. And so I was wondering that he started the Rhein Fire organization, and he's a great person, with a lot of knowledge, and also nice. Yeah, also very nice person.
Yeah. But so that's part of, I think, his passion for the game. A couple of his colleagues, he was able to give them that same passion that he has, right? But what's special? Look, I think what you have in Düsseldorf is something special in the city. The Rhein Fire was always, sellout crowds, in the NFL Europe days, right? So there really is a strong market for Rhein Fire. And even though, it's not the NFL Europe Rhein Fire, you see that fans are coming back and doing a great job with that.
And they did, do you remember, the fans did every year, I think twice, this Cologne tour, when they went with the boat to Cologne. And all these Rhein Fire fans, the fan base was still existing there in Düsseldorf. And that's the interesting part.
And so if you have that, that this fan base was huge, right? So and then having a vision, because I was talking to him. I don't know if I'm making this up, or like in the year before they joined the league, right? It was year one, I guess. And he didn't mention anything, but he was talking about, if they're going to have a league and who are they going to bring as the head coach, right? And he was he wasn't saying who, but I could I figured it out, who he was talking about, right? And that is that is a brilliant move too, right?
Yeah.
To get the guy who was there before, and obviously Jim Tomsula is also great dude, great guy, great coach. Like I was lucky to work with him some camps in the NFL Europe and learn from him. Having the career that he had after the NFL Europe is really awesome, and then having him come back is just it's a very smart move, right?
Yeah.
Then they're in the area where there's a lot of talent. In a way, is where I can't say most of German talent is, but there's a lot of talent there. So there is a little bit of a perfect storm why Rhein Fire is a great spot.
Yeah, that's for sure. Oh,
yeah, we got some.
You guys are gone. No
issues. No, you're good. No, yeah. So that's what I thought. Like, that's very good, and I'm not sure about Frankfurt at the moment. Do they still have large numbers in the stands?
Yeah, getting better. I think these. Honestly, I think Rhein Fire, Frankfurt, and Berlin, they're really making a good way. They work very good. The Thunder organization is great. Working good, becoming better, becoming more fans, and I think the last game when Frankfurt, the Galaxy, played Rhein Fire, I think they had more than 10,000 spectators at the stadium. So that's, for the stadium in Frankfurt, is very good. It's a very good number, and yeah, it's going.
Nice.
What I heard is that the TV stats are lower than they expected, but I don't know about that, because then it's. Somebody told me that's different with streaming and there are other stuff. And hey, I'm a football coach. I have no idea about all these things, what's really going on. So I cannot say this is true or not. I don't know.
Okay, but oh, sorry, Johannes.
No, you go on, because I want to switch to my last topic, but go on with this topic, please. Yeah.
No, like, it's kind of an elf topic sort of flowing forwards. Like Martin was saying, he wasn't coaching this year for the first time in forever. There is vacancies in the in the elf, eh? So maybe you're gonna get a phone call soon, Martin.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay, and so I would have my last question for both of you, but let's start with John. You would have two contracts, one of an ELF team and one of an GFL team. The conditions are very similar. What would you do?
Well, it's probably similar to what Martin said earlier in terms of the conditions. Is you want to know what you get yourself into, right? So what are these conditions? Who is in the organization? What is the experience of an organization? Those kind of things are important. There's lots of people who are very well organized, want to do everything the right way, great, but some of them they talk a bigger game than what they actually can do at the end of the day, and that's finding that out, right? If it's real, that will decide where it's going to go. So you have to do a lot more research into what actually is going on in the organizations. Now, having said that, and it also depends on who you know in these organizations, right? Yeah. So if you can talk to coaches or who've worked there before, or players or management that you know of, and that they are honest and open when they talk to you, that's important. We're looking at the moment, we're looking to like recruit some players for Croydon here from a local team, right? And like when I talk to anybody, what is really critical is that you get all the questions out of the way. You need to know exactly what you get yourself into, and managing expectations is one, right? So and that goes for both ways, right? It can't be a one-way street where they don't know everything about you and you don't know everything about them, because if that's not the right fit, then you end up with, well, maybe we have to do that research, Martin, where we say, look, the last 20 years, how many coaches were actually hired by the Panthers, right? So you need to know what you get yourself into, and that would determine the outcome there, Johannes.
Okay, but overall, would you have interest for the ELF?
Oh, that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like I think it's my decision to go to any team is based on the expectations that I have for an organization, and if I want to be a part of those expectations. And winning is always what you want to do, right? It's not about the winning, like, we want to win this year. Well, okay, do we have everything needed to win? That is ultimately, like, do we have the players? Do we have the coaching staff? Do we have the facilities? Have we meeting rooms, the cameras at practice? How do we travel, right? Like, all these kind of things are important to figure out. At the end of the day, that's what you all want to know, like, what's going on. Did I miss anything, Martin? What do you think?
Well, I totally agree with everything John said. The only thing, well, I'm interested in, and I'm open for all teams. I think the main thing for me as a coach is it's not the league, and it's always great to be successful, and it's always great coaching in these big leagues. But at the end of the day, it's the coaching part what's the most interesting thing, and all the little things John said about facilities, coaching staff, people around them, around the organization. Do I know them? Do they support that? And their expectations. That's all very important. But I would like to really have a situation where I can coach the way I would like to coach, and the people around me should be also great. And it's not that somebody calls you and goes like, "Hey, we are here in the ELF. You can coach on the highest level." No. Wait a minute. Who is involved? Who is the GM? What facilities you have? Because it is the big ELF and it's the big GFL, and in both leagues, I can guarantee you, they don't practice on the same field every week. Then they go like, "Oh no, we have to switch to this field," and they do not have facility. That's one thing what John said about Dresden. Dresden did a great job in facilities. It's a little college feeling there. If you're in Dresden, you got a nice stadium. First of all, you got great practice facilities. You got your office. You have meeting rooms. You have good. Now I think they have a weightlifting room at the same spot. So these are things you're looking for as a coach to be successful. Otherwise, it's always a struggle. You put so much energy in other stuff, then you cannot doing your job, and doing your job is the thing because the people hire you. That's the only thing. And so for me, coaching is the big part. Is just I want to coach talent. I want to coach people, and in my philosophy, if you coach the right way and you find the right program, you will become successful. That's just, you work hard, you're disciplined, you will become successful. That's it.
Okay, yeah, thanks both of you. was very interesting for me as well. Yeah. Yeah, so from my side, I would be done for my topics. John or Martin, do you have a topic which we should discuss here?
I have Johannes for my topics. I have no topics, John. Johannes is the guy who runs the show. I'm just the face for it. But Johannes is the guy who runs the show. He's doing everything here.
You have the knowledge and the experience, Martin. Yeah. Football experience.
I would say, maybe this is sort of flows on from your last question there, Johannes, is that I haven't seen really much GFL football lately, right? Is there a distance? Is the Elf League separating from the GFL? How do you see that, Martin?
It was. I think they were on a good way. But well, it's hard to say that for me. But with the situation of the search, that you put a coaching staff from the top GFL team and the top GFL team into the ELF, and they are successful. They're really successful. Then you can see the difference wasn't too far away. Now we have to say the conference they played in this year probably didn't have the top teams. I thought the Raiders are a little bit more competitive, but they had their problems probably. So now it will be interesting if they play Wroclaw this weekend. That's a very good football team. And after watching, Johannes, you remember I said that one time, I think it was Hamburg against Berlin. We watched and I have to say the same issue. This was the first time I saw an offensive lineman not in shape, or 2 or 3 offensive linemen are just not in shape. And this made for me just the impression, no, now they start getting the level of football in the ELF is going lower a little bit because the amount of players they don't have enough. We don't have enough players, and Potsdam is a very good football team. They're good. Braunschweig is coming back. Dresden is a very good football program, and I think all of these 3 teams, and probably more too, could start and play in the ELF. Could do that. And there are teams in the ELF, they can compete in the GFL, and there are some GFL teams could compete in the ELF, I would say. The medias are way better in the ELF. Yeah. Way better.
Well, I've mentioned this before. Wouldn't it be nice if the champion of the GFL plays the champion of the ELF at the end of the year?
Oh. Yeah, it would
kind
be
of Super
game.
Bowl.
Huh? Yeah, exactly.
The German Super Bowl. Yeah,
AFC,
the European.
NFC.
I don't know if it's the Vikings. It's not the German Super Bowl, but it's. Hey, honestly, that's just a vision. If it doesn't turns out that the European teams compete in the ELF the way the ELF wants it, what about combining the GFL and the ELF teams then? Why not? You remember the Football League of Europe from Axel Gernert, where the FLE Devils were in? I remember the discussion, and I was at this meeting, I think it was in 97 or 98, that the Hamburg Blue Devils got the chance to play in the GFL. So what about making the German teams of the ELF going into the German teams of the GFL, or combining that? I don't know how, and I don't know what. It's just, man, I'm long enough in football, and I saw so many things in Germany. I still love the game, and I think the game is for the players and the fans, and we should think about that.
Sure.
It's not for the presidents but all sports have the same problems with that people think. And I was the president of the Bavarian Football Federation. I also can say it's not so easy. It's easy to sit here as a football coach and go, people should combine and compete together because it's all about the players. And no, there's so many different things, and nothing is black and white. That's always gray. It's always gray. There are always steps to climb to make things happen.
Yeah. So are you saying the both leagues, the top teams of both leagues are compatible?
Yeah, I would say that.
Like in 2014 with Dresden, we played the Big Six. Remember that?
Yes, I remember that. Yeah. How was
that?
So
we had to go to Vienna, and so we were. It was a very hard fought game, but we beat Vienna at that place. And that was firsthand that I on the sideline you can see they're doing a really good job there in Vienna, but in Austria in particular, or in terms of Vienna and Innsbruck, of creating some great local talent.
And I think for them it was important that the ELF started, because in Austria there was just the Vikings and the Raiders, and all the other teams.
Two-horse race.
Yeah, they didn't have a chance to compete because they had such great programs. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's absolutely. But a kind of doomsday scenario, right, is a little bit like you said, Hamburg Blue Devils getting into the GFL after the FLE, fell apart. Yeah. That's. Because if you like the German teams in the ELF, I'm pretty sure that they will be continuing afterwards if there was ever a problem.
Yeah. Well, we don't hope that the ELF falls apart.
No.
But it's
no.
It takes a little bit more, or it takes some more years to get the league established, I think.
Well, let's finish with this. Is because in a COVID year, starting a new league, that was a miracle, and Patrick and all his people did a fantastic job getting it off the ground. And look, when you look at startup leagues in the US, more or less they all failed at some point, right? And more earlier than later. So they've already done a much better job than a lot of people thought they would do. And I just hope it becomes what everybody wants it to be in the future.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
All right.
Last thoughts. So let's finish this episode. So thank you both a lot. It was a nice crossover episode for both podcasts, I think. So I will put your podcast in our show notes. Hopefully you can do this as well in yours, John. And so thanks for listening or watching us on YouTube. And hear us next time, hopefully soon. And subscribe for our podcast so you will hear you will get the information when a new episode comes out. So thank you all a lot, and have a nice day.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Johannes. Thanks, John. Goodbye.
Guys.
Goodbye.
See you.
See you.
Bye.